Backed by popular demand, Tommy Robinson, leader of the English Defence League. It's a controversial group that stands up against Islamic extremism. I mean, they're not popular with everyone, but, well, nobody else seems to be standing firm against this extremism in the UK. He joins me now from London, England. Welcome to you, sir.
How are you doing? You all right?
I'm all right indeed.
Good to be back.
Now, we only just got you because last week there was a court trial, or at least a sentencing, and we thought you could be in prison at this point, but you're obviously not. What happened?
Basically, over the last 2 years, the police have arrested me for various different things, and each time I've been arrested, they've dropped it to a low charge that I go before a magistrate instead of getting a jury, and they've all been little things, and I only realised it's all been building up to this case. What they tried to do, they tried to put together grounds to give me an ASBO, so that I'm permanently ASBO from protesting or demonstrating.
Right, before
not
you
just the English Defence League.
We should explain, ASBO is an anti-social banning order, is it?
Antisocial behaviour order, yeah.
Okay.
Basically, they introduced them, and it would have restricted my movements completely. I wouldn't be able to sit here now doing what I'm doing. So basically, they were trying to cut the head off the English Defence League. And two of the grounds they were using for it was actually the poppy burning protest last year, because I jumped over a fence and tried to stop it. Another point was when I was at a Luton demonstration. Because of the bad media we get, certain people think we stand for something we don't. And over my left shoulder, I heard someone shouting, "Hitler, Hitler, Hitler." And I turned round and slapped them in the face. And they were the two grounds they were trying. And when I stood up in court, I'm proud of both things that I've done. But because of the different, what the media image of us they try to portray in this country is, we get people turning up who have certain views who we have to kick out. And they were the two grounds they were trying to use in order to give me an ASBO. Right. The judge didn't have any of it, and fair play to him, he stood up against it. But that would have been restricting. Obviously, I'd have gone to jail if I broke the ASBO.
Right. Now, for people watching in Canada, ASBOs, I mean, they have, do they work, do they not? We're not really sure. But they're given to some pretty low lives, to really bad soccer hooligans and people who cause all sorts of trouble and they attack people. I mean, and so the purpose is to try and keep the community safer, but it's not for people who turn around to a Nazi and tell them to shut up and give them a clip round the ear. So before we speak about the issues, we did this last time, but once again, we need to reiterate this. Yeah, there's a tiny number of far-right Nazi-type idiots in Britain. There are very, very few. Some of them have tried to infiltrate and influence your organisation, but you stand completely against Nazism, anti-Semitism, homophobia. Your attitude is about freedom, tolerance and standing firm against Islamic extremism.
It's exactly that, and firmly that as well, and we're proud of that. I only really triggered, we got sent an email from two MPs, one's the head of security in Britain, and they're talking to each other, and in the email they're talking about how they can deal with the English Defence League, and one of them says to the other one, we are working with a range of partners in order to address the driver of the English Defence League. That's me. And then when I start triggering with all these little arrests, all these things that are building up against me, my assets have been frozen, I've been investigated by the tax man, I've basically been persecuted, my life's been turned upside down, my freedom to go to football matches has been taken away, my freedom to protest was taken away, it's stopped now. But then it triggered, that's what they've been doing, they've been building and building and building a case against me in order, which they don't do this to any of the Muslim groups. You've got the same Muslim groups that are permanently causing the whole country to be in outrage, burning our poppies, attacking our soldiers, disrupting people remembering the Holocaust. The police and Scotland Yard don't try and apply these ASBOs to them, they never have. We're the first people they're trying to take away their democratic rights and freedom of assembly in order to protest, and that's because we're talking about the thing we're not allowed to talk about, which is Islam.
No, I mean, of course, the football you would go to would probably be Luton Town, so there wouldn't be such a loss not going to see Luton Town. But seriously, let's talk about this poppy burning, because the poppy represents, in Canada is the same, we're part of the Commonwealth. It's not about having an attitude towards war, it's about an attitude towards people who gave their lives defending freedom, democracy, decency and our way of life. And all parties in Parliament, they hold this to be quite sacred. But last year, and the plans are the same for this year, Muslim groups, some Muslim groups, get together, they burn, very ostentatiously, they burn the poppies, they say that British soldiers are in hell, and you get upset about this. And I understand you getting upset about this.
I get completely outraged by it. The poppies are a sign of respect. When we talk about the war, I'm against the war. I believe both wars, all the wars are unjust wars at the present moment. I'm completely against them, but 100% fully backing behind our troops that are fighting those wars and fighting for our freedoms and the freedoms that we enjoy today. And you see the complete two-tier system when last year, when they set fire to the poppies, I jumped over a fence and tried to stop them. I was taken to court and given a £350 fine. The Muslims who burnt the poppies and screamed British soldiers burn in hell continuously through a 2-minute silence were given £50 fines. So it's now 7 times worse to try and stop someone burning a poppy than it is to burn a poppy. And of course this year they're going to do it again because they only got £50 fines. They're laughing at our justice system. And I completely disagree with the ideologies of Islam, but we would never ever think about protesting or attacking the Islamic community on Muhammad's birthday or any day that they hold sacred. But what these Islamic organisations do, they pick the most sacred moments for us, the moments that mean the most to us when we're standing and people are bowing their head in order to remember loved ones that have given their lives to past and present, and they attack that moment. Every time they attack that moment. And when we hear it's just a minority, it's a minority, well, where are all the moderate Muslims? That's what we keep asking ourselves. This Remembrance Day, we know they're going to do it. Why won't the so-called moderate Muslims of Islam come out and confront them? They won't. None of them will. It'll be us down there confronting them, and then we'll be labelled as extremists for trying to stop it. And every man and woman, it's their duty, I think, to get to the capital city and try and stop that, because no passerby, no member of the British Republic should have to witness such hate on such a sacred day to us.
Well, I have to agree with you on this, and it doesn't only apply to what's going to happen in London. I don't expect ordinary Muslims to put their lives on the line, but they can stand there, and there are many Muslims who think this is disgraceful. They can stand there in large numbers, being silent, just in front of these idiots burning poppies, showing people it's not all Muslims. But you hear nothing. You hear so little comment. But as you said, the double standard. I just want to say this again to people. You got a $350, over here, you got a $700 fine for trying to stop them burning poppies. They got a $90 fine for burning the poppies. How was that justified by the judge?
Even worse than this is a sickening thing. In response to that, two of our lads within the English Defence League, they went to a mosque and they sprayed a poppy on the mosque. Now, we condemn that, yeah, that's not right to go attack any house of worship. But they got 12 months in jail for drawing a poppy on the outside of a mosque. 12 months in prison. Now, what's worse, the drawing of a poppy on a mosque or burning the poppy during a 2-minute silence in front of the entire country, and the judge gives a 12-month sentence, 12 months in prison? They're both in prison now. They've both got children, but this is the thing that the British government seem to be doing, the courts seem to be doing. You can't do anything against Islam, or bang, you'll get the biggest hefty sentences. In order to try, and the cat's out of the bag and they're trying to put it back in. Everyone's saying how they feel now, everyone's talking up, whereas for 15 years they've had this whole country suppressed in silence, walking on eggshells, and now they're realising that, oh, what are we going to do now? Everyone's saying how they feel. We're talking up for the first time in 15 years, and they're terrified, I think, and they're trying to put the cat back in the bag by giving out hefty sentences, completely showing everyone and rubber stamping to the whole country a two-tier system that we all live under in this country now, where we have a master race. And there can be no master race. And we don't ask for special treatment, we're asking for equal treatment and the rule of law to be implemented equally across all communities, but it's not. It's like, as I said before, it's kid gloves for their community and iron fist for ours, every time. OK.
Tommy, stay with us. I want to do one more segment with you. Stay with us. Back in a few moments. English Defence League leader Tommy Robinson. Now, before anyone says, oh, you're naive, you don't understand. Look, I grew up in the East End of London. My father was Jewish. I know what the far right are like. I used to get involved in fist fights with guys from what was then called the National Front, soccer and stuff like that. The English Defence League, on the fringes, there are some people there who are a real pain, but there aren't many. For the most part, these are ordinary, generally working class English guys, men and women, who just believe it's not about race, it's not about people being Hindu or Sikh or black. I mean, most of these kids grew up, best friends being from the West Indian community, for example. It's about what they see as Islam creating a world in Britain, and not just in Britain, where there's a huge wave of intolerance. You can't speak your mind on certain issues. Things are done that have never been done before, such as burning the poppy, and there's now, we'll talk about this, rape gangs existing, and people just get upset about it. And the chattering classes, the elites who live in areas that are very cut off from real life, they get very thin-skinned about this. So you mustn't say anything that might rock the boat. Well, the boat sometimes does need to be rocked a little bit. Tommy, let me ask you here about rape gangs, because rape is not the exclusive crime of one group, for goodness sake. But we read more and more about rape gangs where Asian Muslim men are almost grooming young women. And this sounds absolutely vile. Are the media talking about this at all?
This is an epidemic in this country. It's been going on for 15 to 20 years. There's been a conspiracy of silence between the police leaders and the Islamic leaders who have known this is going on. They've facilitated it. We've been banging this drum for 2 years, 2.5 years now, giving speeches on stages, declaring that our youth are being raped constantly, week in, week out, by Muslim paedophile gangs who are purposely grooming them. And when you say it's not, obviously it's not all Muslims that are a bit paedophiles, or you do get white paedophiles, but the way this is done and orchestrated by them sitting outside school gates, driving nice cars, slowly getting into them, giving them vodka, giving them drugs, and then leading them on to elders, it is a grooming period. And only now in the last probably 12 months have they started reporting on it, and the police have really gone to work on them, and they're really arresting them. I know they've arrested some in Telford, where there were 60 young girls in Telford, and in Blackpool as well. There was 11 takeaways that the police named as honeypots. They were using them as honeypots to get the young girls in, aged from 11 to 14. There were 60 girls identified. There's one girl murdered. There's one girl still missing, and the orchestrators and the men who have committed this are still out. They haven't been brought to justice. And if it was on the other foot, if there was 60 Muslim girls being passed around by 11 Christian businesses, there would be outcry. The whole country would be on fire probably by the Muslim community kicking off and rioting. Yet we're supposed to accept it. These are our daughters, and what the politicians, as you said before, these are our daughters, these are our sisters in our neighbourhoods. It's happened to my cousin. My cousin now wears a burqa who has 7 children. And it started off by her being abused, sexually abused, drugged, taken in by one of these Muslim paedophile rape gangs, and then set off. And then now she's a heroin addict, and she's his at her will. And it's our families that this is happening to. So of course we're going to be angry when we go out in the streets. Of course we're going to be screaming and trying to bring a spotlight on what's going on. And hopefully now we see it is being dealt with. They've just scratched the tip of an iceberg, because this is a massive problem in every single town and city.
How do you respond? Because people watching this, many will say, my God, I can't believe it. I know this to be true because I've done the research and I've read the reports of this. Yeah. Why then are so many people, at least why do so many people seem to be in Britain in denial? They just don't want to know. They don't want to hear about any of this. Why? Because
it's not on their doorstep, and it's not their problem. If everyone had the attitude they have now in 1930, we'd all be German. Because everyone's defeated already. And I think if everyone wakes up and accepts, listen, this ideology of Islam is not going to work. We've now got 3, 4, 5 million people who are not going to integrate into this society, who will only want Sharia law, who will... If you accept that, then the future's terrifying. And that's what some people who join our organisation, we've accepted it. It's not going to happen. They're not going to integrate. There's going to be a big problem in the future, which is our children's future. And we must stand up now for our kids. We must. We have a duty to hand down a safe and prosperous Britain to the next generation. I'm sorry, but the way it's going, that's not going to be a safe and prosperous Britain. So we must stand up. We must make a stand against it, which is what we're trying to do.
All right. Tommy, I appreciate your time. Believe me, as long as I'm on the air, I will have you back on the show. I won't be silenced because I know you won't. Thank you so much. You take care, my friend.
Thank you. Yeah, God bless the troops.